The grades are in for your Week 15 New England Patriots, and let's just say, failed again by poor preparation and execution. Stick around, you're about to be locked in to the Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful. Thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. I'm your host, Mike Debate. I cover your New England Patriots for Patriots Country, so reach out to me. Let me know what's on your mind on X at MDABATENFL. You can also catch me where the skies are blue over on Blue Sky at MDABATENFL.bsky.social. And if you're looking to show some social media love to Locked On Patriots, please do so via our X account at LO_Patriots. And Pats fans, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Patriots fans, thank you for joining me here today on Locked On Patriots. We have an informative show here on the docket. It's grade report time, folks, and the Patriots' performance in their 30-17 loss to the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday is not getting rave reviews. It's not a secret. I think you know where we're headed in this one, and we're going to kick things off today by grading the offense. And those 17 points that the Patriots put on the board, they really don't tell the story as to how much of a mismatch this one was from start to finish. We're definitely not letting the defense off the hook either, because we're going to be evaluating their subpar showing as well. And last but certainly not least, the coaches. Well, they got an interesting grade this week, to say the least. We'll get back to that in just a moment. But it's not just a poor evaluation, a very blunt message that it's time to clean things up or else. They're also getting this week the best team in football. That's right. The Buffalo Bills are next up on the schedule. How will they look to improve? Can they even show signs of life against this team? Well, if we're talking reasonable insight and grades, you know we can look no further than our guest today, our resident voice of reason, our Patriots professor, my Patriots paisan, Steve Balestrieri of PatsFans.com and Patriots 4th and 2. Steve, welcome back to Locked On Patriots. Thanks so much for joining me today, buddy.
It's always a pleasure. I thought we would be talking a little bit more silver lining up there, but no, it's thunderstorming over Patriot Place right now. There's not a whole lot of positivity going on up there, and it was disappointing to say the least.
Without question. The football gods were not smiling on the New England Patriots on Sunday, but that being said, the New England Patriots did very little, if nothing, to help themselves in the eyes of the football gods on Sunday. So Patriots have a lot of mea culpa, a lot of blame pie is going to be served up here today on Locked On Patriots. Steve, I thought your grade report was one of the best reads in Patriots text media this week, as always, but I thought you especially captured the true mood of Patriots Nation right now, which is a lot of frustration. After what we saw on the field on Sunday, it's hard to feel any type of optimism heading into the final 3 games of the season. I know the players, the coaches, everyone is going to try to do their best to put their best foot forward against the Bills on Sunday, but this was an opportunity for them to show signs of life, and they simply did not do it. You introduced this report card, this grade report this week so well. I believe it deserves a good amount of credit, and I'm going to give it that today. I'm going to use this as a primer to open up our grade report today. Steve wrote, folks, and I quote, "Coming off of a bye, you would expect the team to tighten up preventable mistakes. That didn't happen. Coming off of a bye, you'd expect to do a deep dive of your opponent and have their tendencies down pat. Well, if they did a darn good job of hiding it. And finally, folks, coming off of a bye, you'd expect your offensive line to actually, block people. Once again, you'd be sadly mistaken." Steve Longfellow on his best day, I don't think, could have captured the essence of the New England Patriots on Sunday. Let's start on that offense because this offense was once again failed by the offensive line. Wasn't their worst showing of the season, but in my opinion, it may have been their most disappointing effort. Let's start with the offensive line, my friend. How do they grade out for this matchup?
They graded out terribly, and for everyone who watched the game, it was apparent, right? It was plain to see. I mean, right off the bat, your left tackle, and this has happened so many times this year. Vidarian Lowe starts off so many of these games like, he's still on the bus, and every week I because I love listening to them. I watch the game on television, but I mute it, and I listen to the games with Bob Sosi and Zoe, who do a fantastic job.
Great tandem.
Yes, and even though there's like a gap in the sound from when it's actually happening, I encourage all fans to forget about that and listen to them, because Zoe is, I mean, perfect, because he captures the essence of everything that's going on. Now, he'll, talk bad about them when they're playing bad, and they were, and but he'll also point out some of the things that people are doing well. So it's very balanced in my opinion. And he made the comment, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it was like on the first drive, and he was like, how can your left tackle coming off a bye be missing blocks on your first drive? I mean, there's two he missed, and that was the essence of what he was saying, and I totally agreed with it. I mean, how can you come off of a bye and be missing assignments and missing blocks, and have your timing all off? I mean, it should have been pristine, and that offensive line was terrible. I mean, yeah, Drake May was 10 of 10, in the first half. It's because they were throwing screens, and they were throwing behind the line of scrimmage. That's why people ooh and ah about Tua's completion percentage. But if you watch Miami, 75% of his throws are behind the line of scrimmage. But the Patriots don't have the talent to catch those and make big chunk plays out of them. They got a couple of first downs, which I liked, but the offensive line was terrible. It was terrible at the beginning in the running game, I thought, because there were so many missed assignments. You're watching the game and you're like, where is this all going? And in the entire first half, the offense gained virtually nothing. And in the second half, May kind of improvised a lot more, and his yardage went up to over 200. But that offensive line, I mean, their play was offensive.
Very good way to put it. And you mentioned that all the way around, and just mistake after mistake and miscue after miscue. It just keeps adding up, Steve. And it's a familiar refrain. We sing it each and every week here on the pod. And quite honestly, I think our listeners are tired of hearing it. We're tired of relaying it, but it is the reality of where the Patriots are right now. You mentioned Vidarian Lowe. Vidarian Lowe is getting out of his stance extremely slowly. I don't know if this is injury related. He's had his injury problems this year. We've seen him pop up on injury reports. So there could be a situation where maybe it's taken him a little bit longer to get up out of his stance because of that. But it's clear and it's obvious that he is getting out of his stance far too slow to be an effective blocker for your young quarterback. Layden Robinson, he had an up and down game on Sunday. You cannot commit a penalty in that situation. I understand rookies are going to make mistakes, but this is football fundamentals 101, folks. You can't get called for holding in the red zone on your opening drive when you are trying to put points on the board and put the opponent, who happens to be the home team, on its heels. Not a good showing, not a good look. Ben Brown with 2 low snaps. Those were problems for the Patriots. So all the way around, you're looking at an offensive line that continues to sputter. And it only, I think, brought into sharp detail just how much work needs to be done on this line in the offseason. So Patriots clearly have their work cut out for them. Doesn't get any easier with a fearsome Buffalo front coming in to be their counterpart for the week when these two teams hook it up in Orchard Park. But Steve, let's move on to the skill position players. Obviously, the wide receivers, not a very good game for them. Arguably an MIA game for them. They may be Daniel Simpson Day, incomplete, because there simply was not a whole lot to bite onto there. I thought the tight ends had a decent game, but again, they did not show enough in this one either. The running backs, I thought, played very well. There's not much to work with there and not many lanes to run through, but I think these guys did the best they could with that. Before we get to the youngster, the star of the day on offense, how would you grade the skill position players in this one?
Yeah, the running backs, I thought, considering what they're looking at with the offensive line, I thought they did pretty well. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson, he kind of got, the motor going a little bit. He ended up with 69 yards on 13 carries. Works out to over 5 yards per carry. That's really good considering you're not getting a lot of help. The thing that's frustrating to me, and I know we've talked about this before, Antonio Gibson was not utilized enough. He had two big chunk plays. He had a 29-yard run, which was a really nice one, and he had a 20-yard pass reception from May. And, how many times did this guy have to come through with a chunk play without the coaching staff saying, maybe we should get him involved before the fourth quarter, And I'm not taking anything away from Ramondre either. I mean, like we just said, considering what he was dealing with, with the offensive line, I thought he played very well. But, I just, especially in the passing game, I want to see them utilize Gibson more. I mean, that was his bread and butter, was the passing game. And, when they do throw to him, he invariably comes out with a good play, or two, but I thought they did well. The wide receivers, they have these little splashes here and there, right? Somebody will make a nice play and you're like, oh, that's good. But then there's that lull in between where they're invisible, and the wide receivers I graded out as D. And I think that was deserved. I mean, Kendrick Bourne had that 37-yard pass reception there in the fourth quarter, which was a beauty. Great throw, great reception. He high pointed the ball. Everything there looked fantastic. But for the rest of the game, he had 2 catches for 7 yards. Demario Douglas only caught 3 passes for 11. One of them was a broken play where Drake May, scrambled out of the pocket and made that really nice shovel pass for a touchdown.
Right.
So, I mean, he gets credit for that, for being, on top of it, but no consistent, production out of these guys. Kayshon Boutte, who, for a guy who talks smack about his offensive coordinator, and for a guy that was saying it was disrespectful for the Cardinals to play man coverage on them right off the bat, he was targeted 5 times, 2 catches, 1 for 16, 1 for 3. These guys aren't helping the offense. They're not helping their young quarterback. And frankly, no teams are afraid of them. And as well, they shouldn't be.
Yeah, without question. I think right now, in terms of weapons around Drake May, that arsenal, it's not just depleted, it's pretty much barren right now of people that can consistently make plays. And that's a problem when you have a young quarterback whose skill set you're trying to maximize. And maybe one of the reasons why this coaching staff is hesitant to put the game in his hands, because it's not necessarily that they don't have a lot of confidence in Drake. It's the weapons around him that could potentially get him injured or could potentially derail some of the progress that he's made. And that leads me quite nicely into my final question for you on the offensive side of the ball today, Steve. How would you grade Drake's performance this week?
Yeah, I thought Drake was good. I thought the two best players on the roster on Sunday were Drake and Christian Gonzalez, and I know we'll get into him in our latest segment. But again, you look at what Drake has to deal with. A poor offensive line, poor wide receivers. I didn't mention the tight ends when we talked about skill position guys. I thought you mentioned, you hit the nail on the head. They didn't have a great game on Sunday, but again, when Drake targeted them, they came through. Between the two of them, they were targeted 7 times, made 7 catches for, I think it was 63 yards combined. Right. It wasn't their best day by far, but I'm not, with all the myriad of problems the offense has, I'm not pointing no fingers at the tight ends.
Oh, no, definitely not. No, they've been one of the very few bright spots in terms of positional groups this year. But as disappointing as the offensive output was on Sunday, the defensive effort may even be more disappointing. This was a unit last year, folks, that ranked 9th in overall DVOA. They're ranked 30th this season. What's the reason for the regression? And do we have clues into why this team is not playing up to the level we expected? Were those clues evident during Sunday's performance against the Cardinals? Steve is going to provide his grades on the defense when we return here on Locked On Patriots, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Let your New England fandom work for you by visiting FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win with your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Locked On listeners, it's that time of year. The college football playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern. That leads into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots. And joining me is my Patriots Paisan, our Patriots professor, Steve Balestrieri of PatsFans.com, providing his weekly grade report here for your New England Patriots, who suffered a 30-17 loss to the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday. Patriots now sit at 3-11, and as you can expect, it is not a pretty sight, folks. This is not a pretty report card to write, but I think Steve did a masterful job in trying to capture the very essence of Patriots Nation right now. Steve, we started off the pod today by talking about the offense and their shortcomings, but this defensive unit, Steve, has really regressed from the one that we saw last year. Now, I understand there's a turnover in head coach. There are circumstances surrounding this defense that would explain a regression. Christian Barmore was out for a number of games with blood clots. You did not see that one coming. That clearly hurt the defensive front. The middle part of this defense is missing Juwan Bentley very much. He's their defensive captain. And for a good portion of the season, Jabril Peppers did not see action on the field due to off-field issues. So there are circumstances surrounding this club that do let you understand why there is a regression. But one thing that keeps standing out to me is guys like your guy, Anthony Jennings, guys like Jelani Tavai, Daniel Ekuale, Kyle Duggar. These are all players that played at a high or optimal level last year, and they haven't shown that same type of prowess. So let's start with the defensive line in this game because they were gashed once again. Cardinals running for 163 yards on 32 carries. How would you grade this defensive front? And I think a better question would be, not to give anything away, but what went wrong on Sunday?
Well, I thought the Cardinals owned the line of scrimmage offensively. They were getting those blocks, and and it wasn't anything fancy, or they weren't throwing a lot of wrinkles at them. I mean, they just ran the football right at the Patriots, and I thought that guys like Godchow and Barmore didn't have a great day. I mean, they were rated out as a D. And because, your opponent is running the ball for 163 yards on you, including a 53-yard run. And from James Conner, who had a great game. I thought the Patriots would be much, much better at that this week because, there's not a ton of motion or like that, like we saw with the Rams and,
Right.
The Dolphins. They were just getting beat, and the tackling was poor.
Very poor.
Too many broken tackles, excuse me. Just bad positioning and just bad, production. They did not, they didn't handle their gaps well. I thought they got pushed around far too much in this game.
I'm glad you mentioned them being pushed around far too much in this game because the linebackers, in addition to the defensive line, did not help that cause. They certainly did not do their part to help this defensive line. Weren't able to set the edge. The Cardinals were 10 of 15 on third down as opposed to the Patriots being 0 for 6. So you want to talk about a contrast, folks, and the reason why Arizona was so successful and New England was so futile on Sunday. Take a look at that stat. I think that might be the key to why this game unfolded the way it did at State Farm Stadium. But when you look at the linebackers' performance, obviously we talked about the edge. Poor linebacker play, I thought, was directly responsible for James Conner's touchdown after the interception. How do you feel about the linebackers in this game? And again, I sound like a broken record, but what went wrong for this unit on Sunday?
Yeah, again, I think everything went wrong. Anthony Jennings is one of the best in the league at setting the edge. He had a horrible game on Sunday. They did a really poor job of setting the edge. I thought in run support, again, so many missed tackles. And when your guys like Jennings, Tavai, Taki, are all getting gashed in there. I mean, what are your answers? You can't replace all of them because you just don't have the numbers. And it was just a horrible game for them. Not only did they fail to set the edge and support the running game, 0 sacks, 0 quarterback hits. Kyler Murray,
right.
I mean, yeah, they got a pressure on him a couple of times, but for the most part, he was far too comfortable in the pocket on Sunday. Now, Jennings got, flagged for roughing the quarterback, which would have been an interception. That was a bad call. I mean, I just thought that wasn't roughing the passer, but you have to overcome that stuff. That wasn't the reason they lost. I mean, it would have helped them getting that pick at that particular time. But, good teams overcome stuff like that. And they didn't. And I thought it was a really poor effort by the linebackers.
If you'd like to end on a high note, we ended last segment on a high note. We'll end this one on a high note. I'm not giving the entire secondary glowing grades, but when you're Christian Gonzalez and you're called upon to take out a team's top receiver, in this case, rookie Marvin Harrison Jr., once again, another bona fide strong performance from the kid. He is clearly the real deal, Steve. And I think probably one of the reasons why there was a little bit of life in the curve when it came to the overall grade for the defense.
Yeah. Well, the secondary rated a C because of Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Because he was fantastic. I thought he did a great job on Marvin Harrison Jr. And I was really pleased to see that Kyler Murray recognized that too. After the game, he went up to Gonzalez and he kept telling him, I'm a big fan, bro. I'm a big fan, big fella. Keep doing what you're doing. I mean,
Absolutely.
He could see it. That was not an area that he was able to work in. Obviously, he wanted to go to Harrison, quite a bit. He has all season, but they weren't able to do that very often on Sunday. And you have to tip your cap to, Christian Gonzalez on that aspect for sure.
Oh, without any question. I mean, Gonzalez is clearly showing, as I said on Monday here on Locked On Patriots, a wisdom and a poise beyond his years. Christian Gonzalez is the real deal and someone to be very excited about if you're the New England Patriots. So overall, Steve, a subpar day for the offense, a subpar day for the defense, but I don't think we've reached the group that had the roughest day on Sunday yet, and that is the coaches. To use an academic term, Steve, the coaches have already been on probation pretty much all season long. You graded them as needing a timeout. In the immortal words of Dean Vernon Wormer, I'm going to take that a step further and say these coaches are now on double secret probation. Can they get out of it? Not with the opponent they've got coming up on Sunday. Steve and I are going to talk about the coaching staff, how they grade out, and what could potentially be done to resurrect what was an awful day for the Patriots coaching staff when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast wraps up right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. If you love watching the game, well, you're going to love Prize Picks. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. Whether it's football, basketball, or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes your holidays bigger and brighter. Here's why you need to check it out. You can now win up to 200 times your money on Prize Picks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, Prize Picks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. This week, I'm looking at Drake May to throw more than 250 yards. And I'll put my intuition to the test with Prize Picks. It's quick, simple, and so much fun to challenge myself and my friends. Download the Prize Picks app today, then use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly when you play just $5. Prize Picks. Run your game. Locked On listeners, with the end of the year fast approaching, I have one question for you. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Well, that definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So don't delay, do it today. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Pats fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots and for making us your first listen each and every day. A special tip of the cap to all of you everydayers that start your Patriots coverage every day with Locked On Patriots. Joining me here today is our good friend, my Patriots paisan, Steve Balestrieri. He is our resident voice of reason. He is also our Patriots professor. And Steve, you have delivered, I think, a tour de force when it comes to this Patriots grade report this week. Very honest, very candid, very accurate. One thing that struck my eye, though, was the grade that you gave the coaching staff. Steve graded the coaching staff not as an A through an F, not an incomplete, but you graded them as they need a timeout. Well, we're both Animal House fans. I think everybody that tunes in on Wednesday looks forward to at least one Animal House reference. I quote the great Dean Vernon Wormer, who said that in times of crisis, the dean has unlimited powers, and the dean is taking these unlimited powers today to put this coaching staff on double secret probation. One slip up, and this fraternity of theirs has had it in Foxborough. Steve, when you look at this coaching staff and you say that they need a timeout, first of all, what was your thought process in that? What did you mean by that? And what do you expect to come out of said timeout for this Patriots coaching staff?
Well, it was funny because I was writing, I wrote this part because I wanted to do it fresh. I usually do my report card on Monday, but on Sunday night, I said, this has to go in. I want to get my thoughts on the coaching staff because after Gerard Mayo's press conference after the game, he said what I thought was throwing his offensive coordinator under the bus. I mean, and I was like, if I was sitting there right now, I would feel so uncomfortable because you just don't see that.
That's true.
I mean, I'm not going to say it never happens, but it almost never happens when you see a head coach throw one of his coordinators under the bus. And I felt so cringy. Like, I was like, I can't believe I just saw that. And, it turned out that after they had that awful sequence, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and they failed to run the ball both times. After the game, Phil Perry was the one that asked Gerard, did you think of running, Drake May in there? Because he's got good size. He's 225 pounds. He's very athletic. We've all seen what he can do. And Mayo said, you said that. I didn't. And I was like, oh, Lord, no. We can't have that. Yeah. And then, he tried to back. I think he caught himself. He was like, he tried to backstroke a little on that one. But, the damage was done there.
A little bit.
Yeah, it was done. And it felt so cringy.
Yeah, it did.
And then, he talked about the run defense. And he said, well, if you toss out that 53-yard run, we didn't do a bad job in the running game. And I'm thinking to myself, if your run defense is solid all year long and you have a game like this, you can play that card and say, yeah, it was an outlier. Throw that one out. And, we didn't have as bad a game as, it looks on paper. But your run defense has been gashed for 14 games, right?
So well said.
And it's like, yeah. And it's like, you can't throw it out at this point. It was just so bad. And I'm thinking, you know what? You guys need to take a day off and sit down with the coaching staff and you need to get some stuff straight. And, that was before I even heard that they did do exactly that on Monday. I don't know if that was fruitful or not, but I would imagine there was some raised voices in there on Monday.
Absolutely, without any question. And yes, indeed, the New England Patriots were taking Monday canceled media availability in the afternoon to kind of regroup, take a look inward, and then try to get back out on the field on Wednesday, try to take a step forward against what is going to be an extremely difficult opponent this week. We'll get into the Buffalo Bills in just a moment, Steve, but I agree with you. This is a situation where any added distraction to a 3-11 football team is a detriment. It does a disservice to the players who are trying to move forward. It does a disservice to all of the coaches, Gerard Mayo himself included, trying to move forward and show that they are making progress and you can build on things moving into 2025. There's a lot to unpack here, not to mention the GM and the job that he's done and how you want to approach going into year 2 under Elliott Wolf. These are all questions that need to be addressed. And I think in a lot of ways that timeout was desperately needed. So we'll see if that double secret probation helped or it hindered. Time will tell, and the product on the field will be the ultimate telltale sign. But Steve, that product on the field can't be expected to be too robust this week because Buffalo seems poised for a deep run into the playoffs. They're playing at an optimal level. The Patriots, how shall we say, are not. I know the coaching staff needs to show something to its fan base, needs to show something to its players that they are moving in the right direction. But is it even possible or feasible to think that we're going to see that type of improvement this week against a very formidable opponent in the Buffalo Bills?
Well, if I'm Gerard Mayo and the staff, I'd be calling up the meteorological guys in Buffalo and say, please tell me there's going to be a blizzard with like 5 feet of snow on Sunday, because that's the only way they're going to keep this game close. I mean, let's face it, Buffalo right now, when I watch them shred Detroit, I was like, and granted, right now Detroit is, they're pretty banged up defensively.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you put up 48 points on the Lions, and I'm like, oof. And I'm watching that, and I'm thinking to myself, this looks really bad for the Patriots next week, because they're going to Buffalo, and right now they're clicking on all cylinders. They just look fantastic. Josh Allen is playing lights out right now, and I mean, if the weather is really good, I think, I hate to say it, but he'll put a 50 burger up on the Patriots.
I think it's a possibility. And with the way Josh is playing right now, all bets are off when it comes to whether or not the Patriots are going to show any signs of life. Obviously, I don't think there's too many, if anyone, out there that's predicting the Patriots even have a shot to win this, let alone actually go out and do it. But the one thing that I am looking for, and this is something that any team can do, whether they're being demoralized on the field or not, is not hang your head. Play solid and play through every single play. If you're getting beat from pillar to post because your opponent has more talent, no one can fault you for that. You can't be faulted if you're the coaches. You can't be faulted if you're the players. You can only maximize the talent you have on the field. But if this team continues to beat itself, make unnecessary penalties in key situations, if they're losing the turnover battle, they've been better lately, folks, but not quite where they need to be. That's got to be better. And of course, if these guys are not playing hard, they're taking plays off, or they're starting to look like they're planning their winter vacation rather than actually get the job done on the field, that's got to be a dark mark on the coaching staff. And unfortunately, then these questions surrounding them right now are going to get louder and louder and louder. And the cries for a new regime to come in are going to get very, very palpable here in New England. So let's hope that Steve's timeout that he prescribed for the New England Patriots yields some positive results on the field. And folks, with that, here on Locked On Patriots, we are now ready to turn our attention to the Buffalo Bills. And don't miss tomorrow's show, because we are crossing the streams with our good friend Joe Marino, one of our favorite crossovers of the year. It's been so long since Joe and I have shared the microphone, and we got a lot to say. So keep it right here and locked into Locked On Patriots for tomorrow's crossover between Locked On Patriots and Locked On Bills. But in the meantime, I want to give a major tip of the cap and heartfelt thanks to my good friend Steve Balestrieri, who is always there for the handoff whenever I need him, folks. Comes through with spot-on analysis and level-headed wisdom and counsel that only he can provide. I do want to give a major tip of the cap and a major thank you to all of you everydayers out there in Locked On Patriots land that continue to make us a part of your daily Patriots coverage. I'm Mike Debate, and I remind all of you to stay safe, to stay well, to be the change you wish to see in the world. On behalf of my good friend Steve Balestrieri, have a great day, folks, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow on Locked On Patriots.